Okay, just checking volume levels here as soon as this thing does what it's supposed to. Nope, that didn't help. There we are. I always end up with a minute or two here to start with just because I want to make certain everything is running properly. And oh, come on. Okay, that apparently worked. Yeah, I know I'm keeping things quiet for half a second, but that's because I'm just waiting to make sure that my volume is working. And looks like she's going to be sluggish again today. There we are. Yeah, I don't like dead quiet, but on the other hand, I don't know if it's recording the volume yet. Okay, let's see how it works. On the other hand, I don't know if it's recording the volume. Okay, and obviously it wasn't. So, that answers that question. Okay, let's see how it works. Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 9th, on September 8th, 2022 at approximately 6:36 a.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one reason and one primary reason only, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. So if you like the video, do give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel because it's going to take a lot of your help to turn this world around. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer people are the exact same tools I personally put to use. And the philosophies of life that I talk about are the ones that I personally live by. Okay, now I decided I was going to bring you up to speed on a couple of things I said I've been working on. Okay, my storage unit that I'm planning on removing, I've talked about getting it emptied. I have 2 trips left, primarily because of the size of the items. Okay, and I might be able to do it in 1 trip. I'm not entirely certain yet. But they will be emptied either today or tomorrow. That unit will be emptied and it will wipe out an extra $200 worth of bills. Okay, that I don't have to worry about by the end of the month. That being said, I also went down and talked to the auto dealer because I have firmly decided I'm absolutely getting the exact car I'm looking for, and it will be the last one I bother with. I knew I picked up on the reason I picked up the car before, the other car, the one I'm driving now, is because the one I was driving was dead in the water. So I didn't have a lot of options. To that end, another one of the little projects that I managed to put aside, that I managed to tie off, was the hard copy of the Return to Paradise. I've got all the hard copy now put on soft copy, and I'm currently expanding it. Now, where is my information? I have to go into the compendium. There we go. Just again to bring you up to speed on that as soon as it fires. I'll tell you, my computer seems to be running a little slower than normal today. But, oh, of course it wouldn't that. Okay, so managed to get it all turned around. And right now I am at 53% of the book itself done. Okay, that is complete. I'm still aiming and still on track to be able to tie it off and have it in print by Christmas. Worst case scenario, as I've always said, will be in the spring of 23. But that's because I don't desire to rush through it. It's turned out to be a little more complicated than I was expecting. But again, when you're looking at your own projects, it is absolutely imperative that you break it down into smaller tasks. Net result, my storage unit is empty. The whole thing with the return to paradise is it's got a lot of cross current to it, and there's a lot of ground to cover because let's face it, turns out writing a massive tie off is a little problematic because it ties everything together and everything, quite frankly, hasn't been written. It would have probably been easier to start off on book one, but it really wouldn't have caught people's attention, or may not have caught people's attention. As it turns out, writing The Birth of the Wolfpack I didn't realize how much I didn't recall, or more to the point, didn't implement regarding marketing and what have you. So I'm working on that at this point. But I've got everything moving in the right direction. And yesterday was the first time in a very long time I managed to work through the day. I got up at 4 o'clock and didn't pack it in until I guess it was about midnight that I actually packed it in. Right. Which meant I was up for 20 hours straight. First time in a very long time. Usually I've ended up passing out partway through the night, but I finally figured out, or partway through the day, but I figured out why. Temperature here has been absolutely insane. Now, I used to be comfortable to 40 degrees, which is about 110. Okay, about 110 in Fahrenheit. See, right now we're only at 11. I'm quite comfortable. I've got my window open the whole 9 yards. 11, by the way, boils down to about 55, 60 degrees. So when you're looking at whatever project you're working on, it's absolutely critical that you break it down into smaller tasks. If you don't, you run into all sorts of neat little snags. Where are we? Yesterday, what is today? 9:08. So we are missing a few. Okay. Well, I'll deal with that afterwards. Anyway, the important factor is when I talk about breaking things down, okay, and getting goals laid out one step at a time. The reason I keep reminding people of that, as you can see, okay, when we look at it up on the wall up here, you can see on that yellow sheet that reminder: I am worth it. Now I've got the same sign on the other side of that board that's done in the wood that I've shown you before. It just worked out well to put it up there too, so I see it when I'm coming into the office and when I'm sitting here. It's just a constant reminder. Okay, the difficult part for everybody, really, when you're looking at striving for success, how do you mark success? Most people make what I call a miscalculation, basing success on other people's perspective of it. Okay, for me, I take a look at the little successes because all the little ones add up to make bigger ones. Okay, I was aiming at getting my house sorted around so I could get rid of the clutter. I've been getting rid of a lot of it. Net result, my storage unit is almost empty. The only three things I got left in the storage unit is one shelving unit and two Christmas trees. One is mine, one happens to belong to my ex. Okay. And then there's a shelving unit that I'll be getting rid of. So it'll never make it home. And when we take a look at that, that will be a success. When I close the door on that, when I turn in the key, well, I'm bringing the key home. Right, simply because it's my padlock. But when I'm done with it, I clean the thing out. Okay, and I turn it in and be done with it. Now, I'm either going to do it all in one shot today, and I'll probably go out and make the second run if I have to. But I figured I'd get on and deal with the journey first. Strive to get it dealt with. I don't know how long I'll be on here today. Probably not that long, simply because I've got a bunch of other things I've got to get done. And what I am looking at doing is I did come to the conclusion that if I've got time today, okay, one of the things I will be doing this week, I'm going to start reading more and more out of the different books I've got on the go. Okay. And the reason being is just to show you how things are progressing. Many of you have stories of your own that you have started putting together. Be they a life story, they might be a life story. They may be a book that you're writing. Can I write a children's book well enough to sell or well enough to get my message out? Okay, whatever that story is. Okay, many of you have started them or thought about starting them and gone, I don't know if I'm good enough. Okay, well, I will tell you this. If I can write, you can write. I'm not the best by any functional stretch. Okay, but I am stubborn. Okay, and I am a firm believer that it is possible for anybody to make ends meet. But you've got to first of all believe that you're capable of it. Now that can take a whole lot of that can take a lot of effort getting your head wrapped around that. Okay. One of the most difficult things for many people is how do you manage to do so many things? You've got a list of things that you really desire to do. Now, I got accused years ago of being ADHD, and I went and checked it out to find out. And what I got told is, no way am I ADHD because I do complete things. Okay, and that's where the reality of it comes in. Because of the fact that I get them completed, that's what tells you whether you're ADD or ADHD. Getting them completed without prompting. Okay. Many of you have started something, and then somebody comes along, somebody that you look up to, or a total stranger for that matter, will come along and say, you're not good enough. Well, the only person that really has to believe you're good enough is the one in the mirror. And here's the kicker to it. For any project you're working on, or any question you have, the odds are somebody else has that same question and just hasn't dug up the nerve to ask. Okay. One of the things that I will be tangling with, okay, when I'm looking at the different books that I'm working on, is getting some of the excerpts out to explain what I'm up to. Now, when I took the hard copy out, okay, when I was copying the hard copy to soft copy, it's easier to edit in soft copy, I'll tell you that. Way back when I was first writing, I would type it out. I would type the whole page out with a minor change to it, and I've still got the original typing that I did. This is why when people look at it and go, well, what do you do about copy? If somebody tries to steal your copyright. Well, I've got writings from back in the 1970s when I started writing this book in this series. Okay, so since I've got those copies, if it comes to that, I walk in and go, okay, if it's his, why do I have all of this? And that should be about the length of the argument, of the suit, if it comes to that. Now, the reality is I'm not the best writer out there. The only thing I've got going for me is I have figured out how, because the idea is when you're doing something, always talk to somebody that has done it successfully before, or do your best to talk to somebody. If you're looking to become a millionaire, at this point, I'm not the person to talk to. Okay. Good morning, Terry. How you doing? I'm not the person to talk to if you're looking to become a millionaire. I am not a millionaire. Heck, last month I didn't even make the goal that I was aiming at. Okay, and I only require $3,200 a month to run my house and business. Okay, it's about to drop to $3,000 because I'm about to wipe out part of my debt. Yep. I can relate to that coffee thing. That's usually the first thing I get going. Normally, I set my coffee up at night so I can just walk in in the morning and push a button. That way, 5 minutes later, I've got my coffee. 5 or 10 minutes later, I've never really gauged it. But no, when you're looking at completing a project, the first thing you got to do is, number one, decide what you're not content with. Any project that you're writing, like for me, the Yldrbac Chronicles are a major project, and it's one of these projects that whether it sells or not is actually a secondary thing. At this point, I've come to realize that the issue for me is getting the book into print. I've got to actually come to think of it. I've got somebody that I've got to talk to today. I'm going to give him a call that has suggested that he might be able to help with the marketing. Okay. The reality is, I've got a lot of people that say, oh, we can do the marketing and it'll just cost this much. Just to be clear, I'm not interested in paying a whole pile more for marketing. I figured out how to pay for word of mouth, and I'm quite willing to work with that. Okay, and will work with that. But this idea of spending another, $1,500 to get more marketing done would be, quite frankly, for me, a waste of money. Okay, aside from getting it through my thick skull, that where it comes to the marketing, I'll have to figure it out, because the marketing that other people have claimed to do has not once netted me a real solid return. Okay, so when you're looking at a project, you've got to realize, first and foremost, are you content with the way your life is? Are you content with the progress of your marketing, or of your efforts? If the answer is no, it's time to really start turning things around and go, okay, this is what's holding me up, or this is what isn't feeling right. When I look at my office right now, I'm quite content. And as you can see, I've got my pen and my pencil in my left hand, because I decided I was going to start dealing with that. Okay, I was going to start deliberately forcing myself to actually get it done. Now, am I a neat writer at this point? No, but if you think about it, when you first are learning to write even with your good hand, it's not neat and tidy. Okay, I have determined that if I write larger, and again, this is something I should have thought about, striving to write small is really difficult, especially when you're reminding yourself how to write. Now, in my case, I'm now writing larger again with my left hand. And that way, yes, as you can see, when I turn this around, okay, you can see that the messages I've written here, okay, are all backhand at this point. And the reason for that is because, well, frankly, with my left hand, that's the way it comes. But I came to the conclusion, if I don't actually deliberately do it, I'm going to run into a problem. I'm not going to get it better, because waiting for something to happen doesn't actually, in fact, work. The real kicker to it is you've got to take a look at it. Now, for yourself. This is not, the thing is, it's not up to me. I can give you all the pointers, I can give you all the tools that I've got, but unless you pick them up, they're not going to do you any good. Okay, like I've got my desk set up. Yes, the computer's running a little sluggish on occasion, but I can work with that. Okay, from your standpoint, pick the project that you're content with. One of the big things I'm in the middle of writing on I mentioned the other day that I added 5 more books to the numbers I'm working on currently. Not like I didn't have enough to do, but there are flaws. If you're looking at success, you have to know where the hiccups are. You have to know what feels off. And I'm looking at society right now going, we start at the top. Okay, parenting. Did that turn around right? I'm just looking at the screen to make sure. Yeah, it turned around right. Probably should have held a little steadier. But anyway, when you been having that problem a lot this morning. You start with parenting having complications. I don't mean parenting my way. I'm referring to what seems to be working and what doesn't. Okay, I've made my mistakes, and I'm by no means perfect. But what I have come to understand is that we have a situation where parenting is being overlooked. When you look at religion, there are massive misguidances going on. There are major problems when it comes to the education and the political arena. All 4 of these concepts are holding everybody back. And it doesn't matter whether you're a pauper or whether you're a millionaire or a billionaire. These 4 concepts are what are holding people back. Okay. The silly part is many people seem to think if you don't educate the people, they're easier to control, which is technically correct. Problem with it is they also don't produce well. Okay, if you are not paying your people well, if you're not, and sometimes payment is simply a thank you. Okay, sometimes it's simply a case of well done. Most people seem to have a major problem with that. Okay, because people have been taught that business means I pay you less, get you to work more, I make more money. Problem with that philosophy: if your staff is not happy, they will not produce as well as if they are happy. Think of yourself. If you're stressed out over finances, do you actually focus on the things in life that you yourself feel you should be focusing on? Or do you get caught up in the idea of, I don't have enough money to eat, to live. Therefore, I'm going to worry about that and never mind the rest of it. Never mind the talking to people. Never mind the sorting things out. Okay. The reality behind it is this: if you're not content, you're going to produce less. If you're in a war situation, people tell me, oh, the war is good for the economy. Well, if war was good for the economy, would it not make sense that the economy would not be in the bucket right now? With the amount of war going on right now, if war was so good for the economy, would it not make practical sense to find the economy boosting? Now, from what I'm seeing, this is not the case. Okay. Then we have, you have that little problem. And of course, most of the spiritual people out there are doing a really wonderful thing. Okay. They're doing absolute wonderful little problem. Okay. What they're doing is going, let's go to war because that's an excellent way of doing it. But the spiritual people are going, let's make everybody afraid of everything. Well, let me ask you this. If you're terrified, are you going to go out and explore new things? Are you going to go out and strive to improve the situation you're on? Or are you going to sit in the corner and wait until dust settles? Okay, I've lived through earthquakes. And I remember what happened the last earthquake I was in, which, in all fairness, was probably 30 years ago now. I was sitting in the bar, and I felt something happen. I felt a little bit of a shake. So I picked my drink up off the counter, off the bar, and I'm holding on to it. And then all of a sudden, the glasses are swinging back and forth like this. And everybody's going for cover. I'm sitting there with my glass in my hand. And granted, I did hold onto the bar itself. Okay, held on to the bar itself because it was pretty shaky. So I'm sitting there, everybody's crawling under tables, and I just looked up and I got nothing over my head except the roof. And the tables aren't going to help me from that. Okay, so I'm sitting there and I'm watching the glasses go and I'm watching my drink do this. And by the way, I was not drunk at the time, so the drink doing this wasn't me. Okay, but I just sat there and I was asked, well, aren't you worried about it? I says, worried about what? My drink's in my hand. You know, something, as a manager, I used to be an assistant manager. But yeah, if you can keep your fellow workers happy, okay, they will produce much better. Okay, just a thought. If you've got a goal, and just looking at this, Terry, if you've got a goal for the company you're managing right now, when you want something passed on, when you want to get a message down to the people on the floor, who do you personally talk to? Because I will tell you, Western society, usually what happens is the manager, the owner talks to the manager talks to the assistant manager and trickles its way down. Okay. And that's the Western way of doing things for the most part. But I will tell you, it's got a massive flaw in it. Okay. In Eastern philosophy, what they do is the CEO or the manager goes down and talks to the broom pusher on the floor and says, this is what I require. This is the goal I'm aiming for. What do you require for me to get there? Now, obviously, if you're, yeah, and that's saying, that'll save you a whole lot of hassles. Something, if you're trying to get it across, especially to new management, like if you're bringing up, who we got here? Odom, how we doing? Glad you could make it. If you're looking at, if you want to get everybody to see the situation, take your whole staff, have a staff meeting one day, and write a message down on a sheet of paper. In kindergarten, we called it the broken telephone. And this applies to every manager or assistant manager out there. It doesn't matter, or any parent. Take a look. Write down a message, just a real short 1-sentence message. Right. Get everybody to line up, and you go, and what you do, whether they line up or not, doesn't matter. You take that message, and without showing the person the message, you whisper the message to them, and you say, this is the message. Now pass it on to the next person. What we found in kindergarten was by the time it got out the other end of 20 people, there was no similarity between the original message and the message that got out the other end. So, I mean, when you look at that, that is how you can tell whether or not your communication method is working, whether messages are getting passed on properly. The only way to bypass that is to hope that people can read and write the message out on paper. But that's kind of time consuming, and quite often we'll get lost in the process anyway. Now, the neat part about life is when you have a good idea in your own head as to what you personally desire to see happen. Okay, then you can start moving things out of the way that are interfering with it. For instance, I emptied my storage unit, and it's pretty much emptied. I've got a few boxes to move around now. But when I brought them home, instead of just sitting there and putting them in the middle of the living room and leaving them there, I brought them home, and most of them are already away. Plus, I've ended up taking other boxes that came out, and they're on their way to the secondhand store. For me, getting stuff out of my house is not a question of necessarily selling it. I could technically go on eBay or something to that effect, but for me, it's not worth the hassle. Okay, so I take a look at it, and I get things sorted around where I can actually get the projects listed off. Now, like I said, okay, I've got the list here and I've started working with my left hand quite intentionally. The reality is, because of that stroke that I had, yep, that's absolutely the case there, Terry. You can only do, it doesn't matter who you are, and this applies to paupers all the way to multi-billionaires. One individual can only do 1 man-hour's worth of work. That's it. So if you've got more work, you require extra help. Okay, now I do everything I do. Well, I can't even say that anymore. I am no longer a one-person job, a one-person business. I actually have to drop the information, but I do have an executive assistant. Okay, that helps me with all the stuff I require help with, or most of it anyway. But when you're looking at your staff, okay, people only have, people, and they've got themselves or they've got their staff, and you've got time. And this is why I say this list thing works. Okay. See, I've got a whole pile of things that I've got on my list, but because I've taken to writing with my left hand again, that will improve. But when you're looking at your staff, now I worked out a profit sharing way that the network I'm building will end up getting sorted around. But the profit sharing comes out of net profit. Okay, and this is why the first place you always organize when you're aiming to get your life moving in the right direction is wherever you work on your finances. Because, like it or not, you don't have to be materialistic, but you do have to realize that the material world is a viable thing, and the money is the way of marking in society whether or not you're making headway. But the key is to look at it this way. When you look at your final numbers at the end of the month, okay, and you go, this is where I'm starting. As long as you're 1 penny above where you started at the beginning of the month, if you're 1 penny above it, then frankly, you're going in the right direction. Now, I've set my bar real low because I was down to, when I finally started turning things around, I was down to less than $2 in most of my accounts. Okay. So, I mean, some had a little more, but frankly, I was pretty low on the totem pole. So going up is going to be easy. Okay. Now I just have to make certain that I've got things done. For the first time in months, because of the fact that I helped out a couple of people, to my own detriment in this case, I've ended up behind in a few things and ended up short where I didn't have the finances to work with it. Net result, I either had to ask for help or go without. Well, I sure as heck wasn't going to go and ask for help. I did it to myself, and I figured out how to correct it. So it's going to take me a few months to get things back on track where I desire them to be. But I'm not looking at where I was. Okay. And I encourage you not to look to where you were. Look at where you are, because it's where you are that matters. That's how you're going to make things change, is by looking at where you currently are and really understanding that you're the one that has control over whether you're successful. Now, I've got my office working properly. As you can see, my table behind me, this one's going to be going. This table right here is too big for this office. So I'm going to find a place to move it to. I do require a small table here, but I can do that. For the moment, this one's got to go because it's in my way. Okay. But again, this is one of those things where I look at it going, I'm correcting things as I see necessary. But they're because I'm not content with them. Now, progression, when you're looking at moving forward, you don't have to know where you're heading. You don't have to have any clue of that. And this is something I've tried telling people all along. Okay, many people are told as they're growing up, You've got to have your ducks in a row by the time you graduate or by the time you're 20, if you're going to be successful in life. This is by no means the case, because in my experience, quite literally almost 40 years in the professional side of consulting, my experience is that most people are in their late 40s to early 50s by the time they figure it out. Okay, late 40s, early 50s, not 20. Okay, but what you do have to know, even when you're a kid, and this can start right off the bat, if you're a child and you're not content with the way your life is, okay, then you have to take a look at what you have control over and make an adjustment. Okay, move and redirect the energy so that you are actually making headway. If I look at it, like I've got my operating here, but down on this counter and right here within range and that's my petty cash. Okay, I've got all my finances set there. My books that I'm writing are all on one shelf. The inventory is all over on the other shelf over here, and it's getting rearranged as we speak. Well, not as we speak. I'm sitting down. Yeah, you notice that too, eh? Oddly enough, that's actually been produced, Terry, or been proven, Terry. Studies were done a long time ago. I didn't do them, but I think I know what the cause is. But studies were done a long time ago that proved that women tend to mature about 3 years faster than men do. Okay, now I will tell you, getting old, everybody will. Okay, you don't get options. You will get older. But it's up to you whether you get old. Okay, because being old is a literal state of mind. Now, from my standpoint, it's pretty simple. I'm dumber than a fence post half the time. Yeah, no doubt. Well, it's like, there's a way I look at that. It's like when you start getting old, when you start thinking you're old, you're decrepit. I was told as you get older, your eyesight will fail, you'll gain weight, you'll end up overweight, you'll end up with arthritis. All of these things will happen to your body as your body breaks down. Now, there is an old saying that goes, all that I do, thou shalt do, and more. And here's the kicker to it. I was told all of this. Okay. Yet, here I am at 59. I'm in better shape than I was at 45. Okay. So, my eyesight works better. Yes, I wear glasses. But that's, I don't wear these when I'm walking around the house because I don't require them. But at that range, I used to not be able to physically see my glasses. Okay, I don't wear my glasses much around the house at this point. I do wear them to work on the computer. I do wear them to drive. Okay, and in all fairness, I now actually have two different pairs. One for working on the computer. So when I leave the office, I usually leave it on the counter, on the computer here. But I cannot read a thing. See, there are times when you have to look at it and go, okay, my body won't do it, but that doesn't have anything to do with age. I came to the conclusion at 12 years old that running a marathon was out of the equation. Right. At least running a marathon in the traditional sense. I don't have the drive to get up and run a marathon. Heck, I've barely got the drive to get up and walk to the end of the counter some days. But yeah, a broken foot will do that. In my case, it was a knee. And as soon as I haven't checked yet, I'll be checking on Sunday to see what my weight's doing. But I have committed to myself that when I break the 200-pound mark, then I will start working on muscle tone. But first of all, I desire to break, and it's an arbitrary number for me. Okay, I was told by my dad that get down to 180 and leave it there. Right. According to the medical people up here, according to the charts, at 5'8", I should be 145 pounds. Well, I'm telling you, I'm just over 200. Can you picture me just looking at my frame? Can you picture me being 50 pounds lighter, or better yet, 60 pounds lighter? Okay. I mean, just picture what that would look like. Not necessarily an appealing sight. I mean, I'm not good to look at anyway. But in all fairness, I don't find men attractive. Yes, I do notice when men are in better shape. But the reality of it is, we're told as we get older, your body's going to break down, your mind is going to slip. Well, my mind slipped and ran away a long time ago. Of course, it did so in such a way that the doctors have figured out that I'm perfectly fine. Have you read the way I write for the Yldrbacian Chronicles? That doesn't come from a necessarily, shall we say, amicable mind all the time. You know, where was the section I was working on here today? Got to get down here and bring this up. Like I said, the mouse is working very slowly at this point. But hey, what the heck? And if we bring up book 12, because I just finished working on something. Where was it here? Hoping I've got it put where it was. Here we go. Drag that all the way up onto the other screen, out of my way. Well, that's an interesting setup. But when you're looking at success, yeah, that was called a sidetrack. Like I said, I was told by a professional videographer I should sit still when I'm talking because moving is distracting. And let's face it, contrary to popular belief, I'm not dead yet. Therefore, moving is what I do. I don't tend to sit still a whole lot. And that's just the way it is. But when you're looking at getting help, and this is the other thing about, because I've mentioned multiple times that working together, we can make this a better world. Okay, for virtually everybody, but that requires clear communication. And by the way, these funny things do not create clear communication. Okay, they're great for texting if you're just trying to leave a message for somebody. They're great for getting it to them. Absolutely. But if you're looking for clear communication, they don't actually work that well. Okay, that's just the reality of it. So from your standpoint, you really have to be certain that you're straightforward. Do not make the mistake of hinting what you're trying to get across. And anybody that works in management knows this. Okay, if you just assume people should know because of their age or because of the length of time they've been working in a particular position, doesn't mean they will. If you assume that, well, there's an old saying that goes with what assume is. Okay, and I'll let you guys figure that one out because I'm not about to swear on, I'm not about to swear on video if I can avoid it. Fortunately, most of the time I can. But the thing we have to realize as individuals is that when you've got a situation, if you do not know yourself how to do it, find somebody you can trust that does. Now, oddly enough, in today's world, if you pay people properly, and this doesn't guarantee it, by the way, if you pay people properly, you'll get better work out of them. Okay, this does not mean people are always honest. Okay, matter of fact, I can virtually guarantee most people at one point in their life or another, okay, have done things either deliberately or accidentally, okay, that were not good for anybody. I'm not perfect by any means. People call and say, you got skeletons in your closet. Absolutely. And what am I going to do about them? Absolutely nothing. What I did, I did. What I didn't do, I didn't do. All of it put together is what makes me me. all of what you've done, all of everything you've gone through to get to this point in life is why you are at this point in life. But all you have to do at this point is not figure out how you got there. Not figure out, oh, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. That's not the issue. All you have to look at, quite seriously, is where are you standing now and are you content with it? If you've made mistakes in the past, yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that you have created some problems. You cannot undo them. You can alter the way you look at them, and you can alter the communication lines that result from the other side of it, from the other person's side. And the biggest thing when you're working with people, there's two major things that people overlook. When you're talking to a staff member, an employee, or a service worker, okay, in other words, if you're going in and you're dealing with a bank teller, a cashier, anybody at all, they're using their name instead of miss, ma'am, whatever, okay, using their name does on the whole in most circles go better. Okay. Now, obviously, and I hope it's obvious, this issue applies as adult to adult. Many kids still refer to their parents, I hope, as mom and dad, or to other people's parents as Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. Okay. It's a thing of respect. But the reality is, respecting your elders is a great idea if they are respecting you. If they are not, it's a little hard to say you have to respect them. It's kind of like a common saying when I was growing up was, you're meant to be seen, not heard. Well, that doesn't do a thing. Kids don't learn much if they're not allowed to voice their opinion or they're not allowed to voice their concerns. Okay, so you have to be certain that when you're dealing with people, the name, calling them by name is so much more effective than just calling them, hey, you. Sorry about that. This is live. The reality is, oh, by the way, just a quick little note. If you've got questions, if questions have come up in any field, okay, drop me a line in the comments below or look below this video. You'll see a whole pile of ways of getting a hold of me. Okay. And by doing that, drop me a line. I will do my best to give you an answer. Okay. That answer may simply be, I don't know. But then I see nothing wrong with not knowing. Okay. There are times when I'll look at something and go, I don't know, so I've got to look it up. Like one thing I know I've got to look up for the Spaced Out Radio show that I do at the first of every month, on the first Friday of every month, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Spaced Out Radio, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., is I've got to look into this race that I was asked about, the Hathors. Now, the reality is I may not know them by the same name. Okay. So I've got to look into that and find out what I can piece together. Many of the races I know of, I don't know by the same name other people know them. Okay. I am happy to say where it comes to the book, The Races of the Worlds, I have added a whole pile of new information that's coming out in the second printing to many of the different races. And I continue adding to them, as well as the pictures. Okay. And those I'm hoping to get finished. They're another one of these projects I'm looking at getting done by the end of the year. All in all, things are proving to be interesting for me. Now, what did we do here? Of course, I'm looking for something here that probably shouldn't be, but this is a live recording. And let's face it, I just don't sit still all that well. So we go all the way down here. There it is. Yeah, this is just something that I was just working on today. Okay, I just actually tied it off. Not today, I tied it off last night. Well, I appreciate that very much, Terry. You know, I do my best, but the reality of it is I couldn't do the show the way I do it if it weren't for the people that are coming in asking the questions. Okay, there is just way too much information I sit on. And let's face it, Dave does an absolutely staggering job in trying to keep on top of things for the most part. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Okay. But, I mean, we're into our 7th year now, and that's not bad. 7 years, we're looking at 84 appearances. That's a pretty decent run in anybody's book. Now, am I the best? Have I got the longest run? No. Am I planning on quitting anytime soon? Also, no. But, the reality of it is, I'm looking at the different societies, and the way that our world is running is almost identical to the way that other races have gone through things in the past. So is our current situation correctable? The answer is yes. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. One of the biggest things that you have to look at is take a look at your life. Take a look at the way you're looking at things. Because I got myself behind, okay, by overextending, which is why I keep telling you don't do. Okay, the reason for it is, do I desire to upgrade my wardrobe? Certainly. Am I going to start wearing a suit and tie? A sport coat in time? Maybe. A tie? When I'm dead, somebody can put one on me if they really want it. And let's not go the idea of a clip-on tie, because I don't like them tied around my neck anyway. The neat little part of life is this: when you're looking at something, get a goal in your own mind, but make certain that goal is for you, because it won't matter if other people tell you that you've got to change something. A doctor can sit there and tell you, if you don't stop doing whatever, you're going to develop cancer, or you're going to develop diabetes. Now, it was neat. When I had my stroke, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. 2 months later, they said, how the heck did you do that? You dropped your sugar levels down to normal. Now, I'm by no means in perfect shape, but I'm also not on any medication at all. Once in a blue moon, if I'm really having a lot of trouble. Good morning, Chad. How you doing? Once in a blue moon, if I'm having a lot of trouble, I will go on aspirin for a couple of days. Just the 81 milligram, because it does help. Okay. So far, I'm still working on the teeth thing. I'm not totally convinced it's working, but it's certainly not killing me. So there we go. Well, best of luck with it, Chad. This gives you an absolute, this is an open door for you. What time are you actually on today? I've probably asked this before. But I've got such a good memory, I write things down so I can forget them. No, that's not actually the case. I do that with my grocery bill or grocery list. I'll write down. Oh, nice. Hopefully you're on for a couple hours. If you would be kind enough, Chad, I will do my best to pop in. I've got something I've got to get done before that, because I got to wrap things up here to make sure my son is up and running. I've got a couple errands to do, but hopefully you're on for a little while. But if you'd be kind enough to send me the link there, Chad, I will do my best to pop in. But with that said, people, thank you so much for joining me. I do unfortunately have to get going. Okay, it has to do with the fact that I've got a few things that have to be dealt with today. But thank you so much for joining me. And I will be back. It looks like I'm going to end up in here many mornings at this point. And then, of course, I've got the other neat little added problem of trying to get in here in the afternoon as well. But until then, I'm going to have to bring it to a close here. So thank you very much for joining me. And until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.